The glass shattered against the hardwood floor with a crash that silenced the bustling diner. Olivia Mitchell, 32, and dressed in a faded blue uniform, stood frozen beside table 7, her breathing suddenly shallow and controlled. Across the room, Commander Ryan West of SEAL Team 8 stared at her, recognition dawning in his eyes. "No way," he muttered, loud enough for nearby patrons to hear. "No fucking way. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." The Saturday morning rush at Sunnyside Diner in Pinecrest, Montana had been like any other, locals wanting their usual orders, tourists asking for recommendations, and Olivia moving through it all with the efficient, unassuming presence she'd cultivated over 3 years. She'd perfected the art of being forgettable, pleasant enough to earn decent tips, but unremarkable enough that no one looked twice. Until today. Until the 4 Navy SEALs had taken the corner booth by the window, the one with the best sight lines. To all entrances and exits. Olivia carefully knelt to collect the broken pieces, her hands steady despite the adrenaline now coursing through her system. The diner's owner, Martha Kinsella, rushed over with a dustpan and broom. "Don't worry about it, honey," Martha said, her voice carrying genuine concern. "First glass you've broken in 3 years. That's gotta be some kind of record." Olivia nodded gratefully, but her focus remained on the corner booth. Commander West was still watching her, speaking in low tones to his team. She recognized the type, special operations, likely between deployments, passing through Pinecrest on their way to some training exercise in the mountains. She'd served their coffee and eggs without meeting their eyes, but something had triggered West's memory. "I'll take care of this," Olivia said to Martha, gently taking the broom. "Table 5 needs their check." Martha hesitated. "You sure you're okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Olivia replied, the lie comfortable. "After years of practice. Just surprised myself is all." Martha patted her shoulder and moved toward table 5, leaving Olivia to sweep up the evidence of her momentary lapse in composure. As she worked, she calculated escape routes, contingency plans, how quickly she could clear out her small apartment. Above the hardware store if necessary. 3 years of peace threatened by a random encounter. 3 years of carefully constructed normalcy crumbling like the eggshells in the trash bin. When she straightened, Commander West was standing directly in front of her, too close for comfort, but positioned precisely where the security camera had a blind spot. Not a coincidence. "Excuse me," Olivia said, attempting to step around him. "Sergeant Mitchell," he said quietly. "Olivia Mitchell. 3rd Battalion, 5th Special Forces Group." The name, her real name, hit her like a physical blow. She'd been Olivia Carter in Pinecrest, the quiet waitress who kept to herself and volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends. "I'm sorry," she replied, voice steady. "You have me confused with someone else." West smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "The woman I'm thinking of was the best spotter I've ever seen. Holds the record for longest confirmed assist in Afghanistan. 2,310 meters. That's not the kind of thing you forget." Olivia met his gaze, keeping her expression neutral. "I don't know anything about that. I'm just a waitress." A waitress who instinctively clocked every exit when we walked in. Who positioned herself with her back to the wall. Who identified the concealed weapons we're carrying without a single obvious glance. He leaned closer. "Your hands don't shake, Mitchell. Not even when you're afraid. That's rare." "You need to leave," Olivia said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Whatever you think you know." "What I know," West interrupted, "is that Sergeant Olivia Mitchell was declared killed in action 3 years ago after a classified operation went sideways. Her body was never recovered." The diner seemed to fall away, sounds becoming distant as Olivia focused entirely on the threat before her. Her right hand twitched, muscle memory reaching for a sidearm that wasn't there. "My team has a situation," West continued, his voice low and urgent. "We need someone with your particular skill set." "I serve coffee and pie," Olivia responded. "That's my skill set now." West's expression hardened. "The Pentagon thinks you're dead, Mitchell. That can remain the official story, or I can make a call right now." The threat hung in the air between them, heavy as the Montana humidity that pressed against the diner windows. Olivia felt the walls of her carefully constructed life beginning to crack. "I'm off at 3, she said finally, the words tasting like surrender. The trail behind Harper's Ridge, no vehicles. West nodded once, then returned to his team. Olivia watched him speak to the other 3 men, their expressions giving nothing away. Professional, dangerous, like she had once been. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of coffee refills and forced smiles. The SEALs. Left after an hour, but their presence lingered like smoke in Olivia's consciousness. When Martha asked if she wanted to leave early, claiming she looked pale, Olivia declined. Routine was safety. Deviation invited scrutiny. At precisely 3:05 p.m., Olivia changed out of her uniform in the diner's small bathroom. She pulled on hiking boots, jeans, and a light jacket despite the summer heat. Old habits. Layers provided options. She exited through the back door, nodding to Louise in the kitchen, and began the familiar walk toward Harper's Ridge. The trail was popular with tourists during peak season, but on a weekday afternoon, it was nearly deserted. Olivia walked steadily uphill, her breathing controlled despite the elevation. Her body remembered this rhythm, the measured pace that could be maintained for hours while tracking a target across mountain terrain. She spotted West before he saw her, exactly as it should be. He was alone, standing near the overlook that provided a view of Pinecrest Valley. His posture was deliberately casual, but Olivia noted the way he continuously scanned his surroundings. "Your team?" she asked as she approached. "Securing the perimeter," West replied. "Standard protocol." Olivia nodded. "What do you want?" "Commander?" "Straight to business." "I've always appreciated that about you, Mitchell." West turned to face her fully. 3 years ago, your team was ambushed during an operation to eliminate Farik al-Sarani. The name sent ice through Olivia's veins. "That operation is classified. Not to those of us with the right clearance." West's eyes narrowed. "The official report states that your entire team was killed. The unofficial assessment suggests that someone compromised your position." Olivia's jaw tightened. "Is that what they're saying now?" "What they're saying doesn't interest me. What interests me is that al-Sarani is alive. He surfaced 2 weeks ago in Pakistan. The news shouldn't have affected her after 3 years, but Olivia felt her heart rate spike. Images flashed unbidden: the ambush, the firefight, the bodies of her teammates scattered across rocky terrain. Thompson, Rivera, Jackson, Chun, the family she'd chosen, gone in minutes because someone had sold them out. "That's not my problem anymore," she said, turning to leave. "He's planning something big, Mitchell. Something that will make the previous attacks look like practice runs. We have actionable intelligence, but we need someone who knows his patterns, who can get close." "Enough. Find someone else." Olivia cut him off. "I'm out. Have been for 3 years." West moved with surprising speed, positioning himself in her path. "The man who betrayed your team is still out there too. Wouldn't you like to know who it was?" The question froze Olivia in place. 3 years of wondering, of nightmares where faceless traitors smiled as her friends died. 3 years of jumping at shadows, never knowing if the person who had compromised her team would come looking to tie up loose ends. "You're lying," she said finally. "You don't know who it was. I have my suspicions." So does Central Command. But we need Al-Zarani to lead us to him. Olivia shook her head. I'm a waitress now, Commander. I serve pancakes and make small talk about the weather. I don't eliminate high-value targets or track traitors. Bullshit, West said flatly. I've been watching you for 3 days. You maintain line-of-sight awareness in crowded spaces. You memorize faces and patterns. You clock every unusual behavior in that diner. You're still a soldier, Mitchell. You're just hiding in an apron. The accusation stung because it contained truth. Olivia had never stopped scanning for threats. Never fully believed she was safe. She'd chosen Pinecrest precisely because it offered multiple escape routes and terrain she could navigate in adverse conditions. She kept go bags stashed in 3 locations. She maintained her physical conditioning through preyed-on runs and clandestine training in her apartment. I didn't survive that ambush just to die in another one, she said quietly. No one's asking you to die. West's voice softened marginally. We need your eyes, your knowledge of the target. This is a precision operation with full support. The last one was supposed to be that too. This is different. West reached into his jacket and produced a small manila envelope. Everything we know about Al-Zarani's current operation. Everything we've gathered on the possible identity of your team's betrayer. Take it. Read it. If you're still not interested, burn it and go back to pouring coffee. Olivia stared at the envelope. Taking it would mean acknowledging the world she'd left behind, the person she'd been, the person who, in her most honest moments, she still was. I have people who depend on me here, she said, though it wasn't entirely true. She'd been careful to keep everyone at arm's length, forming no relationships that couldn't be abandoned at a moment's notice. 48 hours, West replied. That's our window to infiltrate and neutralize the threat. After that, Al-Zarani disappears again, and so does our chance to identify who sold out your team. Olivia took the envelope, her fingers automatically checking for tracking devices or other surveillance equipment. West noticed and almost smiled. Still paranoid, he observed. Still alive, she corrected. Contact protocol is inside. If you're in, follow it exactly. If not, he shrugged. Enjoy the pancakes and weather. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the tree line with the practiced ease of someone accustomed to moving unseen. Olivia remained at the overlook, the envelope heavy in her hands despite its minimal weight. Below, Pinecrest sprawled in picturesque Montana simplicity. The main street with its tourist shops, the diner where she'd built her new identity, the apartment where she slept with a knife under her pillow and a gun in the knitstand. 3 years of peace. 3 years of running from who she had been and what she had done. And now, a chance to find answers. Olivia tucked the envelope inside her jacket and began the descent back to town, her mind already categorizing what she would need if she decided to accept West's mission, equipment, intel, an exit strategy when it was over. Because one thing was certain, if she did this, she could never return to Pinecrest. Olivia Carter, the quiet waitress, would disappear as completely as Sergeant Olivia Mitchell had 3 years ago. Back in her apartment, Olivia engaged all 3 locks on her door before drawing the blackout curtains. She swept the room for surveillance devices, a habit that had earned her the reputation of being peculiar among the few neighbors who'd attempted conversation over the years. Only when she was certain of her privacy did she open the envelope. The contents were sparse but precise. A dossier on Al-Zarani's recent movements, satellite imagery of a compound in northern Pakistan, and a brief summary of suspected activities. The final page contained a single photograph that made her breath catch: Colonel Victor Hargrove, her former commanding officer. The handwritten note beneath the photo was brief. Transferred $2, 3M, to offshore accounts 3 days before your operation. Source unknown. Olivia sat heavily on her worn Sofa, the photograph trembling slightly in her hand. Hargrove had selected her team personally, had briefed them on Al-Zarani, had given them the intelligence that led them into perfect position for an ambush, had attended their memorial services, Olivia's included, with a solemn face and appropriate words about sacrifice and duty. The phone number at the bottom of the page seemed to burn through the paper. One call to accept the mission. One call to step back into the world of shadows and precision violence she'd left behind. She reached for her burner phone, one of 3 she kept charged and ready, then hesitated. 3 years ago, she'd made a promise to herself while hiding in a cave, bleeding from 2 gunshot wounds and listening to enemy forces searching for survivors. She'd promised that if she somehow lived, she would walk away from the life that had cost her everything she cared about. But she'd made another promise too, whispered over the graves she would never visit. Justice, answers, the truth about why they had died. The diner would be short-staffed tomorrow. Martha would be disappointed. The regular customers would ask questions. Small details in a life that had never been meant to be permanent. Olivia dialed the number. Authorization code came the immediate response. Sierra Tango 3928 Delta, Olivia replied, the words unfamiliar after years of disuse. A pause. Confirmed. Extraction point Bravo, 0200 hours. The line went dead. Olivia set down the phone and began to pack. She traveled light, always had, even before her military career taught her the value of mobility. Clothes suitable for various environments. Basic medical supplies. A few personal items, including a weathered photograph of her team that she'd kept hidden inside a hollowed-out book. Her weapons were more challenging. After being declared dead, she couldn't exactly walk into a gun store and purchase firearms. Legally, over 3 years, she'd acquired a modest arsenal through less official channels. A Glock 19 with suppressor, a custom sniper rifle broken down and stored in components across her apartment, and various knives and tactical equipment. That would raise serious questions if found by local law enforcement. By midnight, all traces of Olivia Carter had been systematically erased from the apartment. New tenant paperwork, already completed with a fictional name, sat on the kitchen counter along with an envelope containing 3 months' rent in cash. A separate note for Martha explained a family emergency requiring immediate departure. Simple, plausible lies that would satisfy casual curiosity. Olivia changed into dark tactical clothing, securing her hair under a cap and applying face paint to break up the outline of her features. The familiar routine brought back muscle memories from countless previous operations, the controlled breathing, the mental checklist, the transition from civilian mindset to something colder and more focused. At 0145, she slipped out the back exit of her building, avoiding the security camera at the main entrance. Pinecrest slept peacefully, unaware that one of its residents was reverting to her true nature beneath the cover of darkness. Extraction Point Bravo was a clearing 5 miles outside town, accessible only by a logging road that saw minimal traffic. Olivia approached cautiously, using natural cover and stopping frequently to listen for unusual sounds. Old habits that might keep her alive if this was a trap. The helicopter appeared exactly at 0200, running dark until the last moment. 4 figures emerged before it fully touched down. West and his team, moving with the coordinated precision that marked special operations forces worldwide. Mitchell, West acknowledged as she approached. No extended greeting, no questions about her decision. Just professional recognition of her presence. West, she replied, equally terse. Gear up, he said, gesturing to a tactical backpack one of his men had set on the ground. We're wheels up in 3. Olivia checked the equipment methodically. Communications, weapons, mission-specific tools. Everything top grade and precisely what she would have selected herself. Someone had done their homework on her preferences. As the helicopter lifted off, Olivia took one last look at the lights of Pinecrest, small and distant now. For 3 years, the town had been her refuge, her hiding place, her attempt at a normal life. Now it was just another place she'd never see again. "Briefing in 5, West said over the comm system. "Hope you remember how to do this, Mitchell." Olivia checked the action on her assigned rifle, the familiar weight settling into her hands. Like reuniting with an old friend. "Some things you don't forget, Commander." The helicopter banked sharply east, carrying her toward the past she'd been running from and the future she'd never planned to have. Toward answers, if she survived long enough to find them. Sergeant Olivia Mitchell was back in the field. And this time, she had more than a mission to complete. She had a betrayal to uncover and ghost to put to rest. Martha Kinsella noticed. The envelope when she opened the diner at 5 a.m., her name written in Olivia's neat handwriting, the letter inside explaining a family emergency requiring immediate departure. No details on when or if she would return. Martha sighed, tucking the letter into her apron pocket. People came and went in a tourist town like Pinecrest. Some stayed a season, some a few years. Olivia had lasted longer than most, becoming almost a fixture at Sunnyside Diner with her quiet efficiency and unobtrusive presence. "Everything okay?" Louise asked from the kitchen, noting Martha's expression. "Olivia's gone," Martha replied. "Family emergency, apparently." Louise raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know she had family." "Neither did I," Martha said softly. "Neither did I." The military transport jet cut through darkness above the Indian Ocean, its engines thrumming in a steady rhythm that had once been as familiar to Olivia as her own heartbeat. Inside the dimly lit cabin, she sat apart from West's team, reviewing mission parameters while reacquainting herself with equipment that felt simultaneously foreign and intimately familiar. 12 hours to insertion point, West informed her, sliding into the seat opposite. His face, illuminated by the red cabin lights, revealed nothing of his thoughts. Time for a real briefing. Olivia set down the tablet containing Al-Zarani's file. "I've memorized his patterns, known associates, probable security measures." "What more is there?" "The part that's not in the file." West leaned forward, lowering his voice. 3 days ago, a CIA asset in Islamabad intercepted communications suggesting Al-Zarani has acquired chemical weapons components. Analysis indicates he's planning an attack on a major population center within the next 72 hours. The information settled like ice in Olivia's stomach. Which city? Unknown, but chatter points to American soil. West's expression hardened. "That's the official mission. Locate Al-Zarani, confirm the threat, eliminate if necessary." "And the unofficial mission?" Olivia asked, though she already knew. "Find out who betrayed your team. Because whoever sold you out 3 years ago may be the same person helping Al-Zarani now." Olivia's gaze drifted to the photograph of Colonel Hargrove she'd kept from the file. "You suspect a high-level military contact. The intel your team had was top secret. The location of your hide was known to only 6 people outside your unit. 2 are dead. 3 have been cleared by extensive investigation." West nodded toward the photograph. "That leaves Hargrove." "He was decorated for his service," Olivia said, playing devil's advocate despite her own suspicions. 30 years of exemplary leadership. 28 years of living on a colonel's salary, West corrected. Then suddenly, offshore accounts. And a vacation home in Costa Rica that cost more than he'd earned in a decade. The pieces aligned too perfectly to be coincidence, yet Olivia hesitated to accept them. Betrayal by a commanding officer wasn't just a breach of protocol. It was a violation of the sacred trust that made military operations possible. If you couldn't trust your command, who could you trust? "What does Central Command say about your theory?" she asked, West's jaw tightened. They don't know about it. Officially, this operation is solely focused on neutralizing Al-Zarani. Understanding dawned. This is off books. You're running a shadow investigation. Let's just say I'm pursuing all available intelligence to ensure mission success. You're risking your career, your freedom, if you're wrong. Olivia studied him with new interest. Why? West met her gaze directly. Because I lost friends to that ambush too. Because someone sold out American soldiers and walked away clean. Because I still believe in justice, even when the system doesn't deliver it. The simplicity of his answer resonated with something Olivia had buried beneath 3 years of hiding. The belief that truth mattered. That justice, however delayed, was worth pursuing. Sergeant Reyes, West called, beckoning one of his team members. The stocky operator approached, carrying a hard-shell case. Show her. Reyes placed the case on the table between them and opened it to reveal a collection of advanced surveillance equipment, including items Olivia didn't recognize. Some of this is prototype, Reyes explained, lifting a device the size of a pen. Directional microphone with triple the standard range. Feeds directly to secure servers for real-time voice analysis and translation. And this, West added, indicating a set of contact lenses in a sterile container, is military-grade optical tech. Records everything you see, transmits on encrypted channels, and enhances low-light visibility by 300%. Olivia picked up the lenses cautiously. These weren't in the standard kit, because they're not standard, West admitted. They're borrowed from a program that doesn't technically exist. You're risking more than your career, Olivia observed. This is the kind of operation that ends with convenient accidents if it goes wrong. West didn't deny it. Sometimes the right thing and the safe thing aren't the same. Olivia had learned that lesson the hard way in Afghanistan. Her team had been assigned to eliminate Al-Zarani based on intelligence that he was planning attacks on American forces. Standard mission until they discovered evidence of children being held in the compound. Protocol dictated maintaining position and calling for instructions. Olivia had made a different choice, compromised the hide to extract the children first. That decision had delayed their operation by 16 hours. 16 hours that gave someone time to alert Al-Zarani, to set the ambush that killed her team. For 3 years, she'd blamed herself for deviating from mission parameters, for putting compassion above procedure. Now she wondered if they had been betrayed regardless, if her decision had actually saved those children from being caught in an ambush that would have happened anyway. "I'm in," she said finally, "but I need something from you." West raised an eyebrow. "Name it." "Confirmation, one way or the other. If Hargrove betrayed my team, I want irrefutable proof. And if he didn't, I want to know who did." "That's why we brought you," West replied. "You're not just the eyes on this operation. You're the bait." The words registered like a physical impact. "You're using me to flush him out. If Hargrove is connected to Al-Zarani, news that Sergeant Mitchell survived and is back in play will force his hand. He'll have to warn his contact, and if Al-Zarani discovers I'm alive before we locate him, he'll disappear again," Olivia countered. "Or worse, accelerate his attack timeline." "That's the risk," West acknowledged. "But it's also our best shot at getting both targets." Olivia weighed the implications. She would be dangling herself as incentive for a traitor to reveal himself, while simultaneously hunting one of the most elusive terrorists in the world. The margin for error was microscopic. "I need to know everything," she said. "Every detail. About Hargrove's activities since the ambush. Every piece of intelligence on Al-Zarani's current operation. No compartmentalization, no need-to-know barriers." West hesitated, then nodded. "Full transparency, you have my word." The remaining hours of the flight were consumed by intensive briefing. Olivia absorbed operational details, committed faces to memory, and reacquainted herself with the specialized equipment she would use as the team's sniper and spotter. Her body remembered the rhythms of preparation, cleaning weapons until they functioned flawlessly, checking equipment redundancies, mentally rehearsing contingencies. What surprised her was how quickly she slipped back into her military identity. The waitress from Pinecrest receded like morning fog under a harsh sun, revealing the soldier beneath. Her hands, which had poured coffee and served pie for 3 years, now assembled a sniper rifle with fluid precision that required no conscious thought. Like riding a bicycle, observed Lieutenant Wilson, the team's demolitions expert, watching her work. More like breathing, Olivia replied without looking up. Their insertion into Pakistan occurred under cover of darkness, a halo jump that deposited the team 50 kilometers from their target area. They landed in a remote valley, quickly buried their chutes, and began the long trek toward the compound where intelligence placed Al-Zarani, moving only at night and hiding during daylight hours. They crossed mountainous terrain that would have broken less conditioned operators. Olivia felt muscles protest after years of disuse, but her body recalled the discipline required. 1 foot after another. Control your breathing, manage pain, complete the mission. On the 3rd night, they reached the observation point, a ridge overlooking the suspected compound. While the team established a secure position, Olivia and West crawled forward to conduct initial reconnaissance. The compound sat in a natural depression, partially shielded from satellite surveillance by overhanging rock formations. Lights indicated activity within multiple buildings. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter in predictable patterns. 12 visible security personnel, Olivia noted, scanning through her scope. Probably more inside. 2 technical vehicles with mounted weapons. Standard alarm system on the main gate. Significant security for a location that's supposed to be a religious retreat, West remarked. Olivia adjusted her scope, focusing on the main building. Movement in the eastern structure. 2nd floor. She zoomed in, her trained eye picking out details in the limited visibility. 2 men. One matches Al-Zarani's height and build. Can you confirm identity? Not at this distance, not without better light. Olivia continued her methodical scan. Wait, vehicle approaching from the south road. They watched as a black SUV with diplomatic plates passed through the security checkpoint without inspection. It parked near the main building, and 4 men emerged. 3 obvious security personnel, and 1 in Western business attire. That's not local, West murmured. Too well dressed. Wrong body language. Olivia focused her scope on the newcomer as he walked toward the entrance. When he turned slightly, the security lights illuminated his profile. Her blood froze. Mitchell? West prompted, noting her sudden stillness. It's Hargrove, she whispered, disbelief warring with the evidence before her eyes. Colonel Victor Hargrove just arrived at Al-Zarani's compound. West was silent for a long moment. Are you absolutely certain? In answer, Olivia activated the recording function on her optical lenses, capturing high-resolution images of the man now entering the building. Confirm identity, she said, transmitting the footage to their support team thousands of miles away. Minutes later, her comm unit crackled. Identity confirmed. Colonel Victor Hargrove, U.S. Army, currently on leave status. Location should be Bahamas according to his filed itinerary. The confirmation settled over Olivia like a physical weight. For 3 years, she'd wondered who had betrayed her team, who had sold American lives for profit. Now she had her answer. Walking into a terrorist compound with the comfortable familiarity of a regular visitor. He's the link, West said quietly. He's been working with Al-Zarani all along. Olivia felt something shift inside her, not the rage she might have expected, but a cold, crystalline clarity. We need to know what they're planning. What's worth the betrayal of everything he supposedly stood for? They retreated to the team's position and devised a surveillance plan. Lieutenant Wilson would place remote listening devices closer to the compound. Sergeant Reyes would intercept electronic communications. Olivia would maintain constant visual observation, watching for patterns and opportunities. For 2 days, they gathered intelligence. Hargrove remained in the compound, regularly meeting with a man they confirmed as Farik al-Zahrani. Their conversations, partially captured by surveillance, revealed fragments of an operation in its final stages. "The shipment arrives tomorrow," al-Zahrani was recorded saying. "Your people will handle customs clearance?" "Already arranged," Hargrove replied. "No inspections, diplomatic immunity. The devices will be in position within 36 hours. And you're certain the casualties will be significant, maximum impact. The venues selected will ensure it." The exchange confirmed their worst fears, an imminent attack involving multiple targets. But without specifics on locations or methods, they couldn't provide actionable intelligence to prevent it. "We need to move in," West decided after reviewing the latest surveillance. "Capture Hargrove, force him to reveal the attack details. High risk," Olivia countered. 20+ hostiles, unknown interior layout, and if either target escapes, the attack proceeds with no way to stop it. "What's your alternative?" Olivia studied the compound schematic they'd developed. "There's a pattern. Every evening at approximately 2100 hours, Hargrove takes a satellite call in the courtyard. Better signal strength. He's alone, separated from al-Zahrani and most guards. Snatch operation?" West considered. "Tight timeline, minimal extraction options if compromised." "One shot, one opportunity," Olivia agreed. "But it might be our only play." The plan they developed was audacious in its simplicity. Olivia would maintain overwatch with her rifle, providing coverage as West and Wilson infiltrated the compound. During the regular guard rotation, they would tranquilize Hargrove during his evening call, extract him to a nearby ravine where Reyes would be waiting with emergency medical equipment, and interrogate him immediately for time-sensitive details. "If this goes sideways," West warned, "we burn everything in exfil immediately. No heroics, no second attempts." Olivia nodded, though a private calculation was forming in her mind. If the operation failed, if Hargrove alerted al-Zahrani before they could extract him, there would still be one option remaining: a sniper shot to eliminate both targets simultaneously. It would mean sacrificing the intelligence about attack locations, potentially costing civilian lives, but it would ensure al-Zahrani couldn't execute his plan personally. As darkness fell on the third night, the team moved into position. Olivia established her hide on a rocky outcropping with perfect sight lines to the courtyard. West and Wilson began their careful approach to the compound's blind spot, a section of wall where landscaping created a natural shadow against the security. "Lighting, courtyard clear," Olivia reported through her comm unit. 2 guards at main entrance, 1 roving perimeter. "Target location still dark." "Copy," West replied softly. Approaching insertion point. Through her scope, Olivia watched the precise movements of her teammates. They crossed the open ground in coordinated rushes, using natural cover and timing. Their movements with the guards' patrol patterns. At the wall, Wilson deployed a specialized climbing apparatus that allowed them to scale the 12-foot barrier without leaving evidence. "Inner perimeter breached," West confirmed moments later. Moving to position Alpha, Olivia shifted her attention to the building where Hargrove had been staying. No movement yet, but his pattern had been consistent each night. At 2100 hours, he would emerge, satellite phone in hand, and pace the courtyard during his call. The minutes stretched like hours as they waited. Olivia controlled her breathing, keeping her heart rate steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. This was what she had been trained for: patience, precision, the ability to remain perfectly still while maintaining absolute focus. At 20:58, the door opened. "Target in sight," Olivia whispered, tracking Hargrove through her scope as he stepped into the courtyard. He wore casual clothes, khaki pants and a button-down shirt, and carried the expected satellite phone. Nothing in his demeanor suggested awareness of the operation unfolding around him. "Confirmed visual," West acknowledged. "Holding for initiation of call." Hargrove checked his watch, then dialed the phone. After a brief pause, he began speaking, his free hand gesturing occasionally as he paced along his usual route. "He's distracted," Olivia reported. "Guards maintaining standard positions. You have approximately 30 seconds before the roving. Patrol returns to visual range of your position." "Moving now," West replied. Through her scope, Olivia watched as West emerged from shadows at the edge of the courtyard, tranquilizer gun raised. The shot was silent, the dart striking Hargrove in the neck with surgical precision. He had just enough time to look surprised before the fast-acting sedative took effect. West caught him before he could collapse while Wilson secured the satellite. "Phone, target acquired," West confirmed. "Withdrawing to..." A shout from the main building interrupted the transmission. Olivia swung her scope toward the sound, identifying a guard who had stepped onto a balcony overlooking the courtyard. He had spotted the Americans. "Compromise, east balcony," Olivia warned sharply. Guard raising alarm. The next seconds unfolded. With the nightmarish clarity that combat veterans know too well, the guard shouted in Pashto, drawing his weapon. Lights began illuminating across the compound. The roving patrol changed direction, running toward the courtyard. "Abort primary." "Mission," West ordered. Switching to contingency Delta. "Mitchell, you have weapons-free authorization." Contingency Delta, the last resort protocol if capture of Hargrove failed. Eliminate both primary targets to prevent the attack, even without knowing its details. "Negative," Olivia replied, making a split-second decision that contradicted direct orders. "I can give you cover. Get Hargrove to extraction point." Before West could countermand her, Olivia targeted the guard on the balcony. One breath, one squeeze of the trigger. The guard fell. She immediately shifted to the approaching patrol, neutralizing the immediate threat with two more precisely. "Place shots. Go now," she urged. "I'll maintain overwatch and follow." Through her scope, she saw West's hesitation, the moment when professional obligation warred with tactical reality. Then he nodded, hefting Hargrove's unconscious form as he and Wilson retreated toward the extraction point. Olivia continued providing cover, systematically eliminating threats as they emerged. Each shot revealed her position more clearly, but she accepted the risk. Her team, her new team, needed time to escape with the intelligence that could save countless lives. When West and Wilson cleared the compound perimeter, Olivia began her own withdrawal. Moving quickly through prepared escape routes, she maintained enough distance from the others to avoid compromising their position if she was tracked. The sounds of pursuit grew behind her. Voices, vehicles starting, the unmistakable preparations for a manhunt. At the primary extraction point, a narrow valley where a helicopter could briefly touch down, she rejoined the team. Wilson was already administering a counteragent to wake Hargrove, while Reyes secured their prisoner and prepared him for transport. "That was not the plan," West said when she appeared, his voice tight with controlled anger. "The plan failed," Olivia replied simply. "I adapted." "You exposed yourself. They'll know it was you, specifically you, when they review security footage." "They already knew I was alive the moment you approached me in Pinecrest," Olivia countered. "Nothing changed except we got what we came for." West stared at her for a long moment, then nodded curtly. "The extraction team is 15 minutes out. Let's make sure our guest is ready to talk." Hargrove was regaining consciousness, his eyes unfocused as the sedative wore off. When his vision cleared enough to recognize Olivia, Genuine fear crossed his features. "Mitchell," he whispered, "you're dead. You're supposed to be dead. Sorry to disappoint, Colonel." Olivia knelt beside him, close enough that he could see the coldness in her eyes. "We need to have a conversation about loyalty. You don't understand," Hargrove began, desperation edging his voice. "Al-Zarani has leverage, my family." "Save it," West interrupted. "We've had your family under protective surveillance for months. No threats, no approaches. Try again." Hargrove's expression shifted, calculation replacing fear. "I want immunity, full protection. You want to negotiate?" Olivia's voice remained level, though rage simmered beneath her controlled exterior. "After selling out my team? After helping plan an attack on American soil? I can give you everything." Hargrove insisted. Targets, methods, timetables. Names of everyone involved in the network. But only with guaranteed immunity. West activated a recording device. "Start talking. If your information saves lives, we'll discuss terms." For the next 10 minutes, Hargrove detailed Al-Zarani's plan. Chemical weapons deployed at 3 major sports venues during championship games, time to create maximum casualties and media impact. He provided exact locations, descriptions of the devices, and the identities of the operatives already in position. "Transmission confirmed," Reyes reported after sending the intelligence to their command center. "Counter-terrorism units deploying to all 3 locations." Hargrove sagged with what appeared to be relief. "I've fulfilled my part. Now you'll fulfill yours." "Not quite," Olivia said quietly. "You haven't explained why. Why betray your country, your oath, the soldiers who trusted you with their lives?" Something hardened in Hargrove's expression. "Do you know what 30 years of service got me, Mitchell? A pension that barely covers my mortgage. Medical benefits that don't cover my wife's treatments. While contractors and politicians get rich from the same wars where I sacrificed everything." "So you sold us out for money," Olivia concluded. The simplicity of his motivation somehow more devastating than any complex justification could have been. "I sold intel to people who were going to get it anyway," Hargrove corrected. "The system was already corrupt. I just decided to benefit from it for once." The approaching helicopter's rotors became audible in the distance. West rose, signaling. Reyes to prepare Hargrove for transport. "Your immunity isn't my call," West told the colonel. "That's for people above my pay grade, but your cooperation will be noted." As they secured Hargrove for extraction, Olivia felt a strange hollowness, where she had expected catharsis. The traitor had been identified. The attack would be prevented. Justice of a sort would be served. Yet the answers she'd found offered no peace, no resolution to the grief she'd carried for 3 years. "What happens now?" she asked West as the helicopter descended. "Hargrove faces military justice. Al-Zarani remains a priority target. The mission continues." He studied her with unexpected perception. "The question is, what happens to you?" It was the question Olivia had avoided since agreeing to join the operation. She couldn't return to Pinecrest. That life was gone the moment West recognized her in the diner. But neither could she simply resume her military career after being officially declared dead. "I don't know," she admitted. West nodded toward the helicopter. "We have specialized units that operate outside conventional structures. People with your skills, people who officially don't exist. They're valuable." "Another team?" Olivia asked, the prospect both tempting and terrifying after what had happened to her last one. "Not just a team," West replied. "A purpose." As they boarded the helicopter, Hargrove secured between Reyes and Wilson, Olivia considered West's implicit offer. 3 years ago, betrayal had destroyed her faith in the system she'd served. She'd hidden in Pinecrest not just from enemies, but from the possibility of trusting again, of believing in something larger than survival. The helicopter lifted off, carrying them away from the mountains where her past and present had collided. Below, lights from Al-Zarani's compound diminished into insignificance against the vast darkness. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also possibility. Sergeant Olivia Mitchell watched the horizon, feeling something long dormant stirring within her. Not the waitress she'd pretended to be. Not exactly the soldier she'd once been. Someone new, forged in betrayal and tempered by survival. Someone who might, despite everything, still make a difference. 6 months after extracting Hargrove from Pakistan, Olivia stood at the window of her quarters at Camp Artemis, watching a storm roll across the Virginia mountains. The classified facility, officially listed as a weather research station, served as headquarters for the Special Activities Unit she'd joined after the Al-Zarani operation. The compound's isolated location and rigorous security suited her lingering caution, though she no longer jumped at shadows or slept with a weapon in hand. "Ready for the briefing?" Commander West asked from her doorway. Olivia nodded, following him through corridors that hummed with purpose. The transformation of her life in the past 6 months still occasionally struck her as surreal, from small-town waitress to key operative in an elite unit that technically didn't exist. From hiding her abilities to being valued precisely because of them. The briefing room contained a select team, Lieutenant Wilson, Sergeant Reyes, and 2 newer operatives recruited for their specialized skills. Dr. Elaine Chun, former CDC epidemiologist who'd left conventional service after bureaucracy prevented her from stopping a preventable outbreak. And Marcus Delgado, once FBI's top profiler until his unorthodox methods made him too controversial for the Bureau. They were all damaged in some way, Olivia reflected. All individuals who had seen the system's failings firsthand and chosen to work outside it rather than abandon their principles entirely. Operation Kingfisher, West began once they were assembled. 3 weeks ago, we received intelligence about a private military contractor supplying advanced weapons to insurgent groups in 4 countries. Satellite imagery appeared on the main screen, compounds in remote locations, shipments being transferred, training exercises conducted by figures in unmarked uniforms. Atlas Security Solutions, West continued. On paper, they provide protective services to corporations operating in high-risk environments. In reality, they're arming both sides of regional conflicts to extend hostilities and maximize profit. From government contracts. War profiteering with extra steps, Wilson observed. Exactly, and they're escalating. West displayed intercepted communications detailing weapons transfers. They've begun supplying modified drone systems capable of delivering chemical payloads. Intelligence suggests deployment within 30 days. Casualties? Olivia asked, the tactical part of her mind already calculating approach vectors and surveillance positions. Conservative estimate? Thousands per target. They're marketing these to groups who specifically target civilian gatherings for maximum psychological impact. The room fell silent as the implications registered. After the near miss with Al-Zarani's plot, they understood the human cost. Behind abstract threat assessments, what's our angle? Delgado asked, studying the organizational chart that appeared on screen. Atlas has significant political protection. 3 former generals on their board, contracts with half a dozen 3-letter agencies. Which is why conventional investigation has failed, West acknowledged. We need to gather evidence that can't be buried by political connections. Proof that forces action regardless of who's implicated. Dr. Chun frowned at the display. The supply chain is too distributed. Even if we intercept one shipment, they have redundancies. That's why we're going to the source, West replied. Indisputable evidence of Atlas directing both the supply and deployment of these weapons. Once we have that, not even their political connections can shield them. Olivia studied the face that appeared on screen, a man in his 50s with the polished appearance of a corporate executive rather than a warlord. CEO Richard Keller? Former intelligence officer who saw privatization as more profitable than patriotism, West confirmed. He's scheduled to meet with potential clients in Tangier 3 days from now. Our opportunity to access both his communication devices and confidential presentations. Tangier means limited operational support, Riaz pointed out, complex extraction if compromised. Which is why this will be primarily intelligence gathering, West explained. Mitchell and Delgado will pose as potential clients from a South African security firm. Your objective is to clone Keller's devices, record his presentation, and identify key personnel for subsequent operations. Olivia absorbed the mission parameters, recognizing the calculated risk. Unlike their military raids, this operation required subtlety, blending into sophisticated surroundings, manipulating social dynamics, maintaining cover under scrutiny. Tech package? She inquired. Reyes opened the case containing what appeared to be standard luxury accessories, a designer watch, diamond earrings, a fountain pen. Latest surveillance equipment, disguised as high-end accessories. The watch can clone electronic devices within 3 feet. Earrings contain audio recording capabilities. Pen captures digital signatures for accessing secured networks. Deniable and effective, Olivia noted with approval. If successful, West continued, this operation gives us the foundation for dismantling Atlas's entire network. Not just intercepting one shipment or preventing one attack, but stopping dozens of future atrocities. As the briefing concluded, Olivia remained behind, reviewing the intelligence on Keller. Something in his methodology seemed familiar. The compartmentalization of operations, the use of legitimate business to mask illegal activities, the careful cultivation of political protection. Seeing something I missed? West asked, noting her focus. His pattern resembles Al-Zarani's network structure, Olivia observed. Specialized cells with minimal cross-communication, regular rotation of personnel, redundant supply chains. West considered this. You think there's a connection? Not directly, but they might have had the same teachers. Olivia highlighted sections of the organizational chart. These security protocols aren't standard for private military contractors. They're intelligence agency methods, specifically the kind taught at advanced counterterrorism schools. Keller's background, West realized. He's applying his government training to insulate his criminal operations. Which means he'll be watching for standard interdiction techniques, Olivia concluded. We need to approach this differently. The following days were consumed by intensive preparation. Olivia and Delgado developed their cover identities. She as Anna Visser, operations director for a South African security firm. He as Johannes Pretorius, the firm's acquisition specialist. They memorized backgrounds, practiced regional accents, and rehearsed the technical details of legitimate security operations to withstand expert scrutiny. Dr. Chun provided cultural briefings on the international security community, while Reyes trained them on the specialized equipment they would carry. Every aspect of the operation was planned, contingencies developed for likely complications. Yet as they flew to Morocco on separate commercial flights, maintaining operational security by traveling independently, Olivia found herself reflecting on how different this mission felt from her previous military operations. In Afghanistan, objectives had been clearly defined. Eliminate high-value targets, gather intelligence, secure territory. Success was measured in tangible outcomes, often body counts. The moral calculus, while sometimes complex, had been framed by the clear parameters of military necessity. This mission existed in grayer territory. They operated without official sanction, guided by their own assessment of necessary action. Their targets weren't foreign combatants, but American citizens who had corrupted legitimate enterprises for profit. The risks weren't just to mission success, but to the very concept of lawful authority. When she mentioned these thoughts to West during their secure pre-mission communication, His response was characteristically direct. "The system works." "Until it doesn't," he said. "When conventional accountability fails, unconventional methods become necessary. Not because we're above the law, but because some threats operate beyond its reach." The philosophy resonated with Olivia's evolving perspective. 3 years ago, her disillusionment had driven her into hiding. Now it had led her to a different response, not abandoning her principles, but finding a new way to uphold them when traditional methods failed. Tangier greeted her with warm Mediterranean breezes and the complex aromas of a city where cultures had mingled for centuries. Her luxury hotel overlooked the harbor, providing both an appropriate setting for her cover identity and excellent surveillance positions. She established her presence carefully, registering as Anna Visser, making visible appearances in the hotel's exclusive restaurants and bar, casually mentioning her interest in enhanced security services to carefully selected staff who might be cataloging guests' business interests. Delgado arrived 12 hours later, maintaining appropriate professional distance while establishing their connection through brief, visible meetings in public areas. Their cover required presenting themselves as discerning clients, not easily impressed and accustomed to moving in exclusive circles. The invitation to Keller's private presentation arrived exactly as intelligence had predicted. A discreet message delivered by hotel staff, requesting Ms. Visser's attendance at a specialized security consultation aboard a private yacht. "Perfect," Delgado commented during their final coordination meeting. "Confined space, controlled access points, limited escape routes if they identify us." "It's also where he'll be most comfortable," Olivia countered. "More likely to share detailed information if he feels secure." The evening of the operation, Olivia dressed for her role in tailored business attire that projected authority while concealing the advanced technology she carried. The surveillance equipment had been thoroughly tested: the watch that would clone electronic devices, the earrings recording conversations, the elegant clutch containing signal jammers that could temporarily disable security systems if necessary. A private car delivered her to the marina where Atlas Security's yacht awaited, a 150-foot vessel that projected wealth and power without ostentation. As she boarded, Olivia cataloged security measures with practiced ease: 2 visible guards with concealed weapons, cameras covering all approaches, signal scramblers to prevent electronic surveillance from outside. Richard Keller greeted her personally, a calculated touch that suggested personal attention to important clients. "Ms. Visser, welcome. I've been looking forward to meeting you since reviewing your company's requirements." Olivia smiled with the precise blend of professionalism and interest her cover identity demanded. "Mr. Keller, your reputation precedes you as well. Please call me Richard." He guided her toward the yacht's main salon where several other potential clients had gathered. "I believe your colleague Mr. Pretorius is already here." Delgado acknowledged her with a professional nod from across the room, maintaining their predetermined distance while establishing visual communication protocols. His positioning gave him sight lines to the yacht's main entrance, complementing her view of side exits and staff movements. For the next hour, Olivia navigated the social dynamics with practiced precision. She engaged in conversations that established her cover's expertise, positioned herself strategically near Keller to activate the cloning technology in her watch, and carefully observed the other attendees, identifying potential competitors, actual clients, and Atlas Security personnel disguised as business associates. When Keller began his formal presentation, Olivia recognized the sophisticated manipulation at work. He presented Atlas as a solution to legitimate security concerns, gradually introducing capabilities that crossed ethical and legal boundaries, without explicitly acknowledging their implications, in regions where conventional rules of engagement prove limiting. Keller explained with practiced diplomacy. "Our specialized asset deployment provides decisive resolution without attributable fingerprints." The euphemisms barely disguised the reality. assassination services, false flag operations, weapons supplied through untraceable channels. As the presentation continued, Keller displayed technology that confirmed their intelligence: drone systems capable of deploying chemical agents, facial recognition software that could track targets through international borders, communications equipment that could penetrate supposedly secure networks. Olivia's recording devices captured everything while her trained memory cataloged details that technology might miss, which attendees responded positively to, which capabilities, which Atlas personnel took particular interest in specific clients. The subtle hierarchies that define the organization's structure. Following the presentation, Keller invited select attendees, including Olivia, to a more private discussion in the yacht's conference room. This was the critical phase of the operation: closer proximity to Keller's secured devices, access to confidential materials not shown to the general audience, and higher risk of discovery. Ms. Visser, Keller began once they were settled, your interest in our autonomous response systems suggests specific application requirements. Perhaps you could elaborate on your operational environment? The question was a test, seeking details that might reveal her true intentions, while offering an opportunity to demonstrate legitimate knowledge. Olivia responded with precisely calculated technical specifications, describing security challenges that would justify interest in Atlas's capabilities without revealing her actual objectives. Impressive assessment, Keller noted. Most potential partners focus on hardware specifications rather than integration parameters. Equipment is only as effective as its implementation, Olivia replied, maintaining eye contact while her watch silently extracted data from Keller's tablet, left carelessly within range. We found that lesson expensive to learn. The private briefing continued for 40 minutes, during which Olivia successfully cloned 2 additional devices and recorded detailed explanations of Atlas's most illegal operations. When Keller excused himself to greet late-arriving clients, she exchanged a subtle confirmation signal with Delgado. Primary objectives accomplished. The extraction phase should have been straightforward: polite farewells, departure from the yacht, separate returns to their hotels before leaving the country through different airports. Standard protocol for completed intelligence operations. Reality intervened as Olivia was preparing to leave. From her position near the salon's edge, she observed one of Atlas's security personnel comparing photographs on a secure tablet. Images that included surveillance footage from what appeared to be a military facility. With a jolt of recognition, she realized he was reviewing security footage from Camp Artemis, taken by long-range surveillance equipment. Atlas wasn't just meeting potential clients. They were hunting for the unit, investigating them. Olivia maintained her composed exterior while processing this critical information. If Atlas had identified Camp Artemis, the entire unit could be compromised. This transformed the mission from intelligence gathering to urgent counterintelligence. She needed access to that tablet. Modifying her exit strategy, Olivia deliberately crossed paths with the security officer, creating a minor collision that appeared accidental. "I'm so sorry," she apologized, steadying herself against him and using the moment of contact to plant a miniaturized tracking device on his jacket. "These heels and boat decks don't mix well." "No problem, ma'am," he replied with professional courtesy that didn't reach his eyes. As she continued toward the exit, Olivia activated the secondary function on her watch, using the tracker to access the tablet remotely. The encryption was substantial but not impenetrable to the specialized software Reyes had developed. Within moments, she was extracting the surveillance data, copying it to her own secured storage, while maintaining her unhurried pace toward the yacht's gangway. Delgado intercepted her near the exit, correctly reading her modified behavior. "Everything all right, Anna?" "Perfectly fine," she replied for potential listeners, while her eyes communicated a different message. "Complication. Extraction proceeding. Maintain schedule. They departed separately, Olivia returning to her hotel with the critical intelligence secured. Once inside her room, she initiated emergency communication protocols, transmitting the extracted surveillance data to Camp Artemis through encrypted channels. West's response was immediate. Complete mission as planned. Additional security measures implemented. Extraction timeline unchanged. The confirmation allowed Olivia to proceed with her scheduled departure, checking out of the hotel the following morning, taking the commercial flight to Madrid, then connecting to a private charter that would return her to the United States, through channels designed to evade tracking. Only when the team reassembled at Camp Artemis did she learn the full implications of her discovery. Atlas Security had identified their unit through connection to Hargrove's case, using political contacts to access classified information about the operation that had disrupted al-Zarani's attack. "They've been watching us for months," West explained during their debriefing. "Cataloging personnel, tracking movements, probing our security systems. Which means they know we have evidence against them," Reyes concluded. "And they have friends in positions to bury that evidence if it ever surfaces through official channels," Dr. Chun added. The intelligence Olivia and Delgado had gathered painted a disturbing picture. Atlas Security wasn't merely supplying weapons. To extend conflicts, they were actively creating instability to generate demand for their services. Their operation in Tangier had been assessing potential clients while simultaneously identifying threats to their business model. "They're preparing to eliminate us," West stated bluntly. "Not just suppress our evidence, but remove anyone who might possess it." The revelation shifted their strategic position dramatically. No longer were they investigating from a position of relative security. They had become targets themselves, facing an adversary with resources, expertise, and political protection. "So what's our play?" Wilson asked, voicing the question foremost in everyone's mind. "We can't go through official channels if they're compromised." West considered the question, his expression revealing the weight of command decisions that could cost lives. "We have two options. Disperse the unit, go underground individually, and effectively surrender the fight. Or take direct action with what we know, accepting the risks that entails." The silence that followed acknowledged the gravity of the choice. Dispersal meant survival but abandoning their purpose. Direct action meant potential sacrifice but remaining true to their mission. Olivia found herself thinking about Pinecrest, the quiet life she'd built after abandoning her previous identity. She had chosen safety then, had prioritized survival over justice. The decision had given her 3 years of relative peace. But it had also meant living with ghosts, with unanswered questions, with the knowledge that those responsible remained free. "We didn't join this unit to hide," she said finally. "We joined because we believed some threats require extraordinary responses." Her words broke the tension, catalyzing similar sentiments from the others. Wilson nodded firmly. Reyes voiced agreement. Dr. Chun and Delgado, the newest members, affirmed their commitment to the mission rather than self-preservation. "Then we shift to offensive operations," West decided. "Using the intelligence gathered in Tangier, we identify Atlas's most vulnerable points, their secure facilities, their communication networks, their personnel deployments. We don't just gather evidence anymore. We disrupt their operations. Directly. They'll respond with everything they have," Delgado warned. "Counting on it," West replied. "Because when they do, they'll expose connections and resources that we can document. Evidence that can't be buried or denied." The strategy that emerged over subsequent days was both audacious and methodical. Using the data extracted in Tangier, they mapped Atlas's global infrastructure, identifying key facilities, tracking shipment patterns, and cataloging personnel movements. Each team member contributed specialized expertise to developing targeted operations. Dr. Chun analyzed communication patterns to identify vulnerability windows. Reyes developed technical exploits for Atlas's security systems. Wilson planned tactical approaches to physical facilities. Delgado assessed psychological pressure points in the organization's leadership structure. And Olivia, drawing on both her military training and the perspective gained during her years in hiding, evaluated operational risks and contingency requirements. Her experience living off-grid, maintaining cover identities, and evading detection provided valuable insights. For a team now operating under threat of exposure, we need to be prepared for failures, she emphasized during planning sessions. Not every operation will succeed. Not every team member will make it through unscathed. We need to establish protocols for worst-case scenarios. Her pragmatism balanced West's strategic vision, creating an operational framework that acknowledged human limitations while pursuing ambitious objectives. They would target Atlas systematically, disrupting weapons shipments, exposing illegal operations, and gathering evidence of political corruption that protected the company. Each successful operation would increase pressure on Atlas, forcing them to take increasingly visible countermeasures that could be documented and eventually exposed through carefully selected journalists and lawmakers who remained untainted by connection to private military contractors. As preparations for their first offensive operation neared completion, Olivia found herself on the facility's observation deck, watching sunset paint the Virginia mountains in shades of amber and gold. The beauty seemed incongruous with the dangerous path they had chosen, yet somehow appropriate, a reminder of what they were fighting to protect. West joined her silently, respecting her contemplation for several minutes before speaking. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, not as a challenge but as genuine inquiry. Olivia considered the question. Not second thoughts, just awareness of what we're risking. Not just our lives, but the principle that makes them meaningful. Which principle is that? That the rules matter, she replied. That going outside the system to protect, it doesn't become an excuse for becoming what we're fighting against. West nodded, understanding the concern without defensiveness. The line between necessary action and destructive arrogance is thin. That's why I wanted you for this unit, Mitchell. Not just for your skills, but for your perspective. My perspective? You've seen both sides, he explained. The failure of systems meant to protect justice, and the emptiness of abandoning the fight entirely. You know the cost of both mistakes. The observation was perceptive enough to surprise her. In Pinecrest, she had found a kind of peace, but also a hollow resignation. In Afghanistan, she had served a system that ultimately betrayed her team. Neither extreme had offered a satisfactory answer to how one should live with integrity in a flawed world. There's a third way, Olivia said, articulating a realization that had been forming since joining the unit. Not blind obedience to corrupt systems, not cynical withdrawal from responsibility, but building something better, even if it's small. Even if it's just a handful of people who refuse to accept that this is the best we can do. West considered her words, then gestured toward the facility below where their team was completing preparations. That's what this is. Not perfect, not officially sanctioned, certainly not without risk, but an attempt to stand for something worthwhile. When conventional methods have failed. As darkness settled over the mountains, Olivia recognized the truth in his assessment. Their unit existed in uncertain territory, neither fully within nor completely outside the system they had sworn to protect. They operated without official authorization, yet remained guided by the principles that had led them to service in the first place. It was an imperfect solution to an imperfect world. But perhaps, she reflected, that was the most honest form of integrity. Not claiming moral purity, but continually striving toward justice despite the complications and compromises reality demanded. Tomorrow they would begin direct operations against Atlas Security, initiating a conflict with uncertain outcomes and undeniable dangers. They might succeed in exposing corruption that threatened innocent lives, or they might fail and be labeled traitors themselves. The path ahead offered no guarantees, except the knowledge that they had chosen to act rather than surrender to cynicism or fear. For Olivia Mitchell, who had once hidden her identity and abilities to escape a world that seemed beyond redemption, this represented not just a mission, but a reclamation of purpose. Not the same purpose that had driven her as a young soldier, but something more nuanced, a commitment to justice that acknowledged complexity without accepting defeat. As she and West returned to join their team's final preparations, Olivia carried with her the certainty that whatever came next, she would face it as her authentic self, not the waitress hiding in Pinecrest, not the soldier following orders. Without question, but a woman who had experienced both extremes and chosen a harder, more honest path between them. The explosion illuminated the night sky over the Atlas security training facility in eastern Ukraine, the fireball rising like an artificial dawn. Olivia watched through her scope from a ridge 2 kilometers away as the company's illegal weapons cache ignited in a chain reaction of secondary explosions. No casualties. They had timed the operation during a personnel rotation when the facility would be minimally staffed, and triggered advance warnings that cleared non-combatants from the area. Target neutralized, she confirmed over secure comms. Proceeding to extraction point. 18 months had passed since their unit had shifted to offensive operations against Atlas security. 18 months of precisely targeted strikes against the company's infrastructure. Each operation meticulously planned to disrupt illegal activities while minimizing collateral damage. They had destroyed weapons shipments, exposed human trafficking operations disguised as security contracts, and systematically dismantled Atlas's network of shell companies that laundered profits from conflict zones. The Ukrainian operation marked their 23rd successful mission, and potentially their last. Intelligence indicated that Atlas was consolidating remaining resources for a desperate counterstrike against those hunting them. The company that had once operated with impunity across 6 continents had been reduced to a fraction of its former power, its political protectors distancing themselves as evidence of corruption became impossible to conceal. Olivia rendezvoused with Wilson at their predetermined extraction point, an abandoned farmhouse 15 kilometers from the target area. Reyes confirms the data center breach was successful, Wilson reported as they loaded equipment into their nondescript vehicle. Financial records, client lists, communication logs, everything transmitted before their security protocols engaged. West? Olivia asked, noting their commander's absence. Already en route to the secondary location. He's coordinating with our media contacts for the final phase. The final phase, the culmination of their 18-month campaign. With Atlas weakened operationally, they could now expose the full scope of the company's criminal activities and political connections through carefully selected journalists whose integrity remained uncompromised. The evidence they had gathered would initiate investigations that even the most powerful couldn't suppress. Olivia and Wilson traveled separately to minimize risk of interception, using routes and transportation methods established through previous operations. The journey took 3 days, employing everything from local buses to cargo transports, their identities changing with each border crossing. The safe house outside Krakow served as their final assembly point, a modest farmhouse surrounded by fields that provided clear sightlines in all directions. As team members arrived in staggered intervals, Olivia noted the physical toll of their extended campaign. Reyes walked with a slight limp from a mission in Colombia. Dr. Chun's hands showed subtle tremors from extended work with chemical analyses. Delgado's face carried new lines of tension that hadn't been present 18 months earlier. West arrived last, his expression revealing both exhaustion and determination. "It's done," he announced to the assembled team. "Evidence packages delivered. to 7 journalists across 4 countries. First reports will begin appearing within 48 hours. Atlas's response? Olivia asked. Predictable. Legal threats, denial statements prepared, political allies mobilized. West's mouth curved in. A grim smile. But they don't know what we have. They can't prepare for evidence this comprehensive. The intelligence Reyes had extracted from Atlas's data center provided the final pieces. They had sought direct links between the company's illegal weapon sales and specific terrorist attacks, financial transfers to political figures who had shielded them from investigation, and internal communications explicitly discussing civilian casualties as acceptable collateral in pursuit of extended contracts. What about us? Wilson asked the question they all recognized as central to their future. When this goes public, every intelligence agency in the world will be looking for the source. Which is why this safe house will be our last gathering point, West confirmed. After this, we implement the Omega Protocol. The Omega Protocol, their final contingency plan, developed for the moment when their mission was complete, but their security remained threatened. Each team member would adopt deep cover identities established over the past year, dispersing to predetermined locations with no contact between them for a minimum of 18 months. Displacement packages are prepared, West continued. New identities, financial resources, geographical distribution designed to minimize pattern recognition. Dr. Chun to Southeast Asia, Reyes to South America, Wilson to Western Europe, Delgado to Australia, Mitchell and I to separate locations in North America. The room fell silent as they absorbed the implications. After 18 months of operating as a unified team, pursuing a shared mission against overwhelming odds, they would separate, perhaps permanently. The bonds forged through shared danger and purpose would be severed by necessity. Timeline? Olivia asked practically. 24 hours to final preparations. Departure at staggered intervals beginning tomorrow evening. West surveyed the team, his expression softening slightly. I know this isn't the victory celebration any of us envisioned. But what we've accomplished together will save countless lives, even if we're not acknowledged for it. As the team dispersed to prepare for their separations, Olivia found herself on the farmhouse's porch, watching darkness settle over the Polish countryside. The quiet beauty of the landscape contrasted sharply with the danger they still faced. Atlas's resources might be diminished, but their desperation made them more dangerous than ever. Reconsidering the Omega Protocol? West asked, joining her. Olivia shook her head. Just reconciling with another fresh start, another identity. Another life built on necessary fiction. Different this time, though, West observed. You're not running from the truth about yourself. You're protecting the truth you helped expose. The distinction was meaningful. When she had fled to Pinecrest after Afghanistan, Olivia had been escaping not just external threats, but internal questions about her purpose and principles. Her identity as a waitress had been a rejection of her military past, an attempt to become someone untouched by betrayal and disillusionment. The new identity waiting for her, Catherine Mercer, environmental consultant relocating to the Pacific Northwest, wasn't an escape but a tactical necessity. It would shield her physically while allowing her to carry forward the purpose she had reclaimed. I've been thinking about afterward, Olivia admitted. 18 months from now, if the heat dissipates. If what we've done changes things. You're wondering if the team reassembles, West guessed correctly. Or if we're meant to remain ghosts. If exposure would undermine what we accomplished. West considered the question with characteristic thoroughness. The world needs symbols as much as it needs shadows. Right now, we're effective as the latter. Perhaps someday, the former becomes necessary. Their conversation was interrupted by Reyes's urgent approach. We have movement on the access road. Vehicle approaching, no headlights. Immediate action. Replaced philosophical reflection. The team activated practice security protocols, defensive positions established, escape routes confirmed, non-essential equipment prepared for destruction. No alarm, no panic, just the methodical response of professionals who had anticipated this possibility. Satellite confirmation, Dr. Chun reported from her monitoring station. 4 vehicles total, approaching from different vectors. Professional. Spacing and velocity. Atlas found us, Wilson concluded, checking weapon systems. Question is how. Worry about that if we survive, West replied practically. Engagement Protocol 3, delay and disperse. We're 12 hours ahead of schedule, but the Omega Protocol remains viable if we reach secondary extraction points. Olivia moved to her designated position, a second-floor window providing optimal firing angles across the property's eastern approach. Through her scope, she identified the lead vehicle, a modified SUV with reinforced chassis and subtle armor. Plating, professional configuration, likely carrying Atlas's elite response team. 8 combatants visible in approach vector 1, she reported. Tactical positioning suggests former special operations training. Similar reports came from other team members covering different approaches. They faced approximately 30 professionals with advanced equipment and coordinated tactics, overwhelming force against their 6-person team. They're after the evidence, Delgado assessed. They don't know we've already distributed it, which gives us leverage, West concluded. Mitchell, prepare for negotiation protocol. Everyone else, defensive positions but hold fire unless directly engaged. The strategy was sound. If Atlas believed they still controlled the evidence, negotiation might create opportunities for escape. Violence served neither side's interests if alternatives existed. As the vehicles established a perimeter around the farmhouse, Olivia adjusted her position to maintain both tactical advantage and visibility for potential communication. Through her scope, she observed a familiar figure emerging from the lead vehicle. West, she said quietly into her comm. Primary contact is Richard Keller himself. The Atlas CEO's presence transformed the tactical calculus. This wasn't merely a security team sent to eliminate threats. This was the company's architect taking personal control of a critical operation. Interesting choice, West replied. Either desperate or confident. An amplified voice carried across the property. Commander West, I know you're in there with your team. Let's discuss this situation like professionals rather than escalating unnecessarily. West activated the external communication system they had installed as a contingency. That's an interesting approach from someone who surrounded a farmhouse with 30 armed operators, Mr. Keller. Professional courtesy, Keller responded. I have brought more if I didn't respect your capabilities. What do you want? The same thing you want, resolution without bloodshed. Keller remained partially shielded by his vehicle, demonstrating tactical awareness. You have something that belongs to my company. I'm prepared to offer terms for its return. Your company's criminal activities don't belong to anyone, West replied. They're evidence of violations that have cost thousands of lives. Morality is luxury in our profession, Commander. You know that as well as I do. Keller's voice carried the confidence of someone accustomed to negotiating from positions of power. Here's my offer. Surrender the complete intelligence package you've accumulated, and my team will withdraw. You and your people can disappear. I won't pursue you further. And why would we trust that assurance? West asked, maintaining the dialogue while the team prepared contingency measures. Because continuing this conflict benefits neither of us. You've made your point. You've damaged my operation significantly. But if you force this confrontation, people you care about will die, and for what? Principles? Justice? Those are abstract concepts. Survival is concrete. The conversation continued, West skillfully extending the exchange to buy time while the team executed their predetermined emergency protocols. Critical equipment was being destroyed, escape preparations finalized, defensive measures optimized. Through her scope, Olivia noticed subtle changes in the Atlas team's positioning, operators shifting to provide better firing angles, communication suggesting coordination of an assault team. Keller wasn't negotiating in good faith. He was preparing to attack regardless of West's response. "West," she warned over their secure channel. "They're setting up for assault. Negotiation is a distraction." "Understood. Implement severance protocol." The severance protocol, their most extreme contingency plan. Not merely escape and dispersion, but a complete severance of operational connections. If executed, team members would not only separate, but activate measures that eliminated any digital or physical evidence linking them to each other or their previous activities. It meant, in practical terms, that this would be their final operation as a unit. Even if they survived, the protocols required to ensure their security would make reassembly nearly impossible. Olivia acknowledged the order with a single click on her COM unit, then shifted to her secondary responsibility, providing covering fire for the team's staggered withdrawal. Through practice signals, team members confirmed readiness for implementation. "Mr. Keller," West responded finally to the Atlas CEO, "I appreciate your perspective, but I think you've miscalculated something fundamental about our position." "And what's that, Commander?" "We already won. The evidence you're trying to recover was distributed to international journalists 12 hours ago. The first reports are being published as we speak. This confrontation isn't about preventing exposure, it's about revenge." The momentary silence from Keller confirmed the impact of this revelation. When he spoke again, his voice carried the edge of someone whose careful calculations had been appended. "You're bluffing. Our intelligence indicated." "Your intelligence is outdated," West interrupted. "While you were tracking our previous movements, we were completing our mission. Atlas security is finished, Mr. Keller. The only question remaining is how many more lives you're willing to sacrifice for a company that will cease to exist within weeks." The tension stretched across the property, Keller visibly conferring with the security team while maintaining cover. Olivia tracked subtle shifts in the Atlas operators' positions, noting increased agitation and communication. "They're not standing down," she reported, preparing for immediate assault. "Execute severance," West ordered. 30-second intervals. What followed demonstrated why their unit had succeeded against overwhelming odds for 18 months. Each team member initiated their withdrawal according to precise protocols. Dr. Chun first, slipping through a concealed exit while specialized equipment created sensor distortions that masked her movement. Reyes followed half a minute later, using a different route with similar distraction measures. Olivia maintained her position, providing carefully placed covering fire that forced Atlas operators to seek cover without directly targeting personnel. The objective wasn't to inflict casualties, but to control enemy movement patterns, creating extraction corridors for her teammates. The situation deteriorated rapidly when one of Atlas's operators identified Reyes during his extraction, initiating direct engagement. The careful balance between controlled withdrawal and full combat collapsed as both sides exchanged fire. "Change of plans," West announced over comms. "Full defensive posture. Cover Delgado and Wilson's extraction before falling back to secondary positions." Olivia adjusted immediately, shifting from suppression fire to precision elimination of immediate threats. Her training as a sniper had always been about controlled application of force, not maximizing casualties, but achieving specific tactical objectives through precisely placed shots. Through her scope, she tracked Atlas operators attempting to flank Delgado's position, neutralizing two with non-lethal shots that removed them from the engagement without unnecessary loss of life. The ethical framework their unit had maintained, even in combat situations, remained operational despite the chaos. Use minimal necessary force, prioritize mission completion over revenge, maintain the moral distinction between themselves and their adversaries. When Wilson reported successful extraction, Olivia began her own withdrawal, moving through predetermined routes while maintaining communication with West, who remained in the farmhouse coordinating their dispersal. "Mitchell clear," she reported. Upon reaching her first checkpoint, "Moving to secondary position." "Confirmed," West replied, his voice steady despite the intensifying exchange of fire around the farmhouse. "Maintain course to extraction point. I'll follow in 3 minutes." Olivia hesitated, analyzing the increasing concentration of Atlas forces around West's position. "Your extraction window is narrowing. Acknowledged, 3 minutes." "That's an order, Mitchell." She recognized the tone. West wasn't being heroic or sacrificial. He was making a tactical decision as commander, ensuring the team's primary objective was achieved regardless of personal risk. The professional part of her acknowledged the necessity. The human part rebelled against leaving a teammate behind. 2 minutes, she countered. "Then I provide covering fire for your extraction, whether you've initiated movement or not." The brief pause suggested West calculating whether to insist on his original timeline. Acknowledged. 2 minutes. Olivia positioned herself at the secondary observation point, a natural elevation that provided clear sight lines to the farmhouse and West's most viable extraction route. Through her scope, she tracked Atlas operators establishing a tightening perimeter, their movements suggesting preparation for a final assault rather than continued containment. "West, they're preparing to breach," she warned. "Assault team in position at the east entrance." "Understood," he replied calmly. "Final. Preparations complete. Beginning extraction now." Through her scope, Olivia observed West moving with disciplined efficiency through his planned route, timing his movements between Atlas's observation patterns. His progress was methodical until an unexpected shift in the assault team's position placed operators directly in his path. Without hesitation, Olivia provided the covering fire they had discussed. Precise shots that forced Atlas personnel to seek cover without directly targeting vital areas. The distraction created the window West needed to continue his extraction, though it also confirmed her position to enemy forces. "Mitchell, disengage now," West ordered as he cleared the immediate danger zone. "They've identified your location." "Proceeding to extraction point," she confirmed, already moving from her position as the first rounds from Atlas operators struck where she had been moments before. The predefined extraction plan separated team members intentionally, sending them in different directions to complicate pursuit and maximize the probability that some would escape even if others were captured or killed. Olivia's route took her east through dense forest terrain toward a maintenance shed where transportation awaited. She moved with the fluid efficiency of someone for whom wilderness traversal was second nature, using natural cover and minimizing detectable signs of passage. Behind her, sounds of conflict at the farmhouse gradually faded, suggesting Atlas had either secured the location or redirected forces toward fleeing team members. The maintenance shed appeared exactly as their advance. Preparation had left it, undisturbed, with emergency supplies and the motorcycle hidden beneath agricultural equipment. Olivia performed a rapid security check before retrieving the vehicle and necessary supplies for the next phase of her journey. As she prepared to depart, her secure comm unit activated one final time. "Severance protocol complete," West's voice. "Confirmed. Maintain radio silence as per established procedures. It's been an honor." The simple statement marked the end of their unified operation. From this point forward, team members would operate independently under their contingency identities with no communication for a minimum of 18 months. The severance protocol included deactivation of all shared communication systems and destruction of any materials that might connect individual operators. "Acknowledged," Olivia replied, knowing this would be their final exchange. The honor has been mine. She destroyed the communication device according to protocol, ensuring no traceable components remained. Then she began the journey that would transform Sergeant Olivia Mitchell into Catherine Mercer, environmental consultant with a specialization in watershed management. The carefully planned route took her through 3 countries over 2 weeks. Using transportation methods specifically chosen to evade digital tracking and surveillance systems. At each transition point, she modified her appearance and documentation according to predetermined protocols, gradually assuming the identity that would shield her. In the aftermath of their operation against Atlas, during this transition period, news of Atlas Security's collapse emerged across international media. The evidence their team had provided to journalists revealed a criminal enterprise of staggering proportions, weapons sales to terrorist organizations, assassination services disguised as security operations, systematic bribery of government officials, and deliberate destabilization of regions to create demand for their services. Olivia monitored these developments through public sources, noting that the revelations had exactly the impact they had intended. Political figures with connections to Atlas faced investigations and resignations. Military contracts worth billions were suspended pending review. International arrest warrants were issued for Richard Keller and his executive team. Their mission, measured by its original objectives, had succeeded completely. Atlas Security was dismantled, its criminal activities exposed, its political protection evaporated. Weapons shipments that would have caused thousands of civilian casualties had been intercepted. Conflicts deliberately extended for profit were now subject to renewed diplomatic efforts. Yet personal victory remained complicated by necessary sacrifice. The team that had achieved this outcome could never publicly claim responsibility. Their methods, while justified by the threat they confronted, existed in the gray area between authorized operations and vigilante action. Their identities, if revealed, would become targets for both legitimate investigation and illegitimate revenge. 3 months after implementing the severance protocol, Catherine Mercer established her new life in a small coastal community in Oregon. Her environmental consulting practice provided both cover and purpose, legitimate work that benefited the communities where she operated while maintaining the low profile her security required. The transition wasn't merely physical but psychological. Unlike her previous attempt at civilian identity in Pinecrest, this transformation didn't require denying her capabilities or expertise. Catherine Mercer wasn't hiding from who she had been. She was integrating those experiences into a new chapter that honored rather than rejected her past. She maintained awareness of potential threats without being controlled by them. She established security protocols that balanced legitimate caution with livable routine. She developed professional relationships that remained appropriately distant without the complete isolation that had characterized her years in Pinecrest. 6 months into her new identity, while completing an environmental impact assessment for a local watershed project, Catherine received an unmarked package at her office, a scientific journal with a subscription she hadn't ordered. The journal itself was legitimate, focused on environmental restoration projects, but contained a single anomaly, a classified advertisement for specialized equipment that included a seemingly innocuous alphanumeric code. To anyone else, it would appear to be a product serial number. To Olivia, it was unmistakable, a verification code established during contingency planning, confirming that the severance protocol had successfully protected team members. No specific information about individual status or location, simply confirmation that the team's sacrifice had achieved its intended security outcome. The verification brought unexpected emotional impact, relief that her former teammates likely remained safe, melancholy at the permanent separation from people who had shared her most meaningful work, and validation that their methodical planning had functioned as designed even under extreme pressure. 1 year after establishing her identity as Catherine Mercer, she found herself increasingly integrated into her coastal community. Her consulting practice had developed a reputation for thorough analysis and practical solutions. Local environmental groups sought her expertise for restoration projects. She had even cautiously developed friendships with several colleagues whose values aligned with her own. The watershed project that had initially brought her to the region became her particular focus, a comprehensive effort to restore salmon habitat damaged by decades of industrial activity. The work involved complex stakeholder engagement, technical challenges requiring creative solutions, and persistent advocacy against political and economic resistance. In many ways, it paralleled her previous mission against Atlas security, identifying systemic problems, developing strategic interventions, building coalitions around shared objectives, and maintaining focus despite powerful opposition. Different context, different methods, but similar principles of effective change in complex systems. On the anniversary of the Severance Protocol implementation, Catherine took a day off from her consulting work, hiking to an isolated viewpoint. Overlooking the Pacific Ocean, the location offered natural security, clear sightlines in all directions, minimal civilian traffic, no surveillance infrastructure. A place where she could momentarily set aside the necessary caution of her daily life. As she watched waves breaking against the shoreline far below, Catherine reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From decorated military sniper to small-town waitress hiding from betrayal. From reluctant recruit in West's classified unit to key operative in the campaign that dismantled Atlas security. From Sergeant Olivia Mitchell to Catherine Mercer, environmental consultant. Each transition had carried loss and possibility, sacrifice and renewal. Each identity had revealed different aspects of her capabilities and character. Each chapter had taught her something essential about purpose and integrity in a world where institutional failures often overshadowed individual conscience. The Atlas operation had confirmed what she had begun to suspect during her years in Pinecrest, that running from difficult truths offered no real resolution, that hiding one's capabilities solved nothing, that systems might fail but individual responsibility remained. The solution wasn't blind loyalty to corrupted institutions, nor complete withdrawal from collective action, but finding the courage to build something better, however limited its scope. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.